You're sitting at the kitchen table with your partner doing that thing couples do where you'd stare at your bank account and try to figure out where all the money went. Between the two of you, you're pulling in $130,000 a year. That's more than your parents made combined. Probably more than your grandparents could have imagined. You should be crushing it, building wealth, taking vacations, feeling secure. Instead, you're stressed about whether you can afford new tires this month. You've got maybe 2 months of expenses saved up. And when the car needed an unexpected repair last week, it went on a credit card. Both of you work full time, sometimes more. You're exhausted. You rarely see each other except for a few tired hours in the evening. And here's the really messed up part. You did everything right. You got the degrees, the careers, the house in a decent school district. You followed the script. So why does it feel like you're drowning? My name is Miko, and I spend way too much time thinking about why people who make good money feel broke. If you're someone who's working harder than ever, earning more than your parents did, but somehow have less to show for it, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we're running the actual numbers on why 2 incomes leave you broker than 1, and the math is going to make you angry. The discovery that should have changed everything. Look, back in 2003, a Harvard bankruptcy law professor named Elizabeth Warren, yeah, that Elizabeth Warren, published research after analyzing over 2,000 families who had gone broke. What she found should have been front-page news everywhere, but instead it got buried under financial advice telling you to skip your morning coffee. These families weren't filing bankruptcy because they were irresponsible. They weren't buying jet skis and taking European vacations. Adjusted for inflation, the average family was spending 33% less on clothing than families in the 1970s, 23% less on food, and 51% less on appliances. They were more frugal than their parents' generation. So where did all the money go? Warren discovered something that sounded completely backwards. Having 2 incomes didn't make families more financially secure. It made them more vulnerable. Families with 2 working parents were more likely to file for bankruptcy than single-income families. Working twice as hard, bringing home 2 paychecks, doing everything the modern economy told you to do, and you end up more likely to lose everything. Here's the comparison that destroys the illusion. A single-earner family in the early 1970s brought home about $42,450 in inflation-adjusted dollars. They spent roughly 54% on fixed costs. That left them with about $19,560 in discretionary income. Room to breathe, room to save, room to handle an emergency. Now look at the early 2000s. A dual-earner family brings home $73,770. That's 75% more income. They should be destroying it financially, right? Except their mortgage jumped 81%. Health insurance went up 74%, and suddenly they're paying for things that barely existed as major expenses before. $6,000 to $7,000 a year for childcare, another $8,000 for a second vehicle. Their tax rate climbed from 24% to 30%. After all those fixed obligations, that dual-income family making $31,000 more per year had roughly $1,500 less in discretionary income than the single-earner family from a generation before. More money coming in, less money left over. It's like getting a promotion and somehow ending up broker. And if you think that was bad in 2003, wait until you see what housing did to that equation. The housing arms race. Let me introduce you to the Parkers. Sarah's in marketing making $68,000, Mike's in IT pulling in $75,000. Combined household income, $143,000. They're in their early 30s, been saving for years, and they're finally ready to buy their first house. They're looking at a standard 3-bedroom, 2-bath in a decent school district. Nothing fancy. The house has builder-grade everything. The carpet is that generic beige that screams 2015, and the backyard is roughly the size of a parking space. The asking price? $485,000. Here's what most people don't realize. In 1970, the national home price to income ratio was roughly 2.6. You could buy a house for 2.5 years of household income. By 2025, that ratio hits 7. Your buying power didn't just get cut in half, it got decimated. and you're using two incomes to do it. In markets like San Jose, the ratio is over 12, San Francisco, 10.5, Los Angeles, nearly 11. These aren't penthouse apartments in Manhattan. This is where regular people with regular jobs are trying to live. It became an arms race. Every family started showing up to open houses with two incomes. The family with one income couldn't compete. So now, two incomes became the minimum bid, not the advantage. And here's where it gets even insane. Houses in the highest rated school districts now command a massive price premium over surrounding areas. In South Lake, Texas, for example, you're looking at a median home price of roughly $1.5 million inside the good school district versus about $550,000 just outside it. That's not a school district premium, that's a ransom payment. You're essentially paying an extra $1 million for the privilege of not having to pay for private school. The math doesn't math. To afford a median-priced home in 2025, you need a household income of roughly $112,000 to $141,000. The median household income is $83,150, which means 74.9% of U.S. households, more than 100 million families, cannot afford a median-priced home. The median age of a first-time homebuyer hit 40 years old. It used to be late 20s. People are spending their entire 30s saving for a down payment on a house their parents bought at 25. The Parkers eventually got their offer accepted. They put down 10%, $48,500 they scraped together over 6 years. Their mortgage payment is $3,180 a month. Add property taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and they're at about $4,200 monthly. That's 35% of their gross income going to housing. They tell themselves it's fine, it's temporary. They'll refinance when rates drop, they'll get raises, it'll get easier. Spoiler, it won't. Way the money actually goes. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but $143,000 is still a lot of money. They should be able to make it work. Here's what nobody talks about. That $143,000 household income, it's not real. Let me show you where it actually goes. Sarah and Mike are about to find out what every dual-income household discovers eventually. Fixed costs don't just add up, they multiply. Healthcare is where it starts. Their employer-sponsored family plan costs $26,993 per year in total premiums. Mike's company covers most of it, but they're still paying $570 a month out of pocket. Then there's the deductible, $3,000 per family. Then co-pays every time they actually use the insurance. Total annual healthcare spending, about $10,200. That's $850 a month before they've treated a single illness. Back in 1999, that total premium would have been about $5,791. It's nearly quintupled, while their salaries definitely haven't. And they're the lucky ones. They have employer coverage. 3 consecutive years of 6+% premium increases, and every HR email about benefits sounds like an apology letter. Then there's the stuff they don't warn you about. Property insurance jumped 8% this year, now running $292 a month. Auto insurance for 2 cars, $245 a month, up 46% since 2022. Car payments, because they both need reliable transportation to get to the jobs that pay for the cars, $680 a month combined. Gas, $320 a month. Groceries, because they're trying to eat relatively healthy and not die of processed food, $950 a month. Utilities, internet, phones, $380 a month. Let's add it up. $4,200 for housing, $850 for healthcare, $680 for cars, $245 for car insurance, $320 for gas, $292 for home insurance, $950 for groceries, $380 for utilities. That's $7,917 per month in fixed costs. And we haven't touched student loans, which are $520 a month, or the fact that they're humans who occasionally need clothing, haircuts, or to leave the house. They bring home about $8,900 per month after taxes. After fixed costs, they have $983 left. Less than $1,000 for literally everything else in their lives. Retirement savings, emergency fund, medical copays, new tires when the check engine light comes on. That's all coming out of $983. And we still haven't added kids to this equation. This is what the two-income trap actually looks like. It's not theoretical. It's Sarah eating a protein bar for lunch at her desk because they can't afford to eat out anymore. It's Mike lying awake at 2 a.m. doing mental math about whether they can afford to fix the fence this month or if it needs to wait. It's both of them working full-time and somehow feeling broker than their parents did on one income. The terrifying part no one talks about. Here's the part that keeps me up at night, and it should keep you up too. Sarah and Mike have no backup plan. Both of them are already working. Both incomes are already committed to keeping the lights on. If either one of them loses their job, they don't lose 50% of their income. They lose their ability to function. The whole structure collapses. Back in the 1970s, when Sarah's mom was a stay-at-home parent, that arrangement functioned as financial insurance. If Sarah's dad lost his job, her mom could enter the workforce and bring in new income. They had a reserve they could activate. Sarah and Mike have already activated their reserve just to cover baseline expenses. There's nothing left to activate. And it gets worse. Having two workers in the labor force doubles their exposure to job loss, illness, or disruption. Two people who can get sick. Two people who can get laid off. Two people whose companies can relocate or restructure. When one earner in a dual-income household loses their job, the family loses about 40 to 50% of income overnight. Unemployment benefits replace only 37% of prior wages on average. In 33 states, unemployment benefits cover less than half of former earnings. Mike's company just announced layoffs. They're calling it restructuring. He's probably fine, but probably isn't certainty. If he loses that $75,000 salary, they lose the house. Not eventually, within about 3 months. They have 2 months of expenses saved, and that's being generous. Bankruptcy data confirms this isn't rare. Filings climbed 14.2% in 2024 to over 517,000 cases. Married couples with kids, the group most likely to be dual income, were twice as likely as childless couples to file. The top 3 drivers? Job loss at 78%, medical issues at 65%, and divorce. You work your entire adult life, do everything right, and one bad break can erase it all. Sarah's mom keeps asking when they're going to have kids. Sarah keeps deflecting. How do you explain to your mother that you can't afford kids on $143,000 a year when she raised 3 kids on one income? How do you say that out loud without feeling like you failed at something fundamental? The math that makes you want to scream. Now for the part where the math turns genuinely cruel. Let's run the actual numbers on what happens to Sarah's $68,000 after it goes through the gauntlet of taxes, childcare, commuting, and what financial planners call the exhaustion tax. Because when you see where the money actually goes, the whole illusion collapses. Sarah's $68,000 doesn't start at a 0 tax rate. It stacks on top of Mike's $75,000, entering the code at the household's existing marginal rate. Federal income tax on that $68,000, about $8,580. FICA takes $5,202. State income tax at 5% grabs $3,400. Total tax bite, $17,182. She's down to $50,818 before a single work-related expense. Now comes childcare. They want 2 kids eventually. Sensor-based infant and toddler care in their area, $14,400 per kid per year. 2 kids, $28,800 annually. Sarah's take-home after taxes, $50,818, minus childcare, $28,800. She's at $22,018 for the entire year. But we're not done.
Sarah drives 35 minutes each way to work. That's an hour and 10 minutes a day, roughly 250 working days a year, about 290 hours annually in the car. At current gas prices and factoring in maintenance and depreciation, AAA puts her total driving cost at about 72 cents per mile. She's driving roughly 9,000 miles a year for work. That's $6,480 annually, down to $15,538. Then there's the exhaustion tax, and this is where it gets personal. Sarah and Mike are too tired to cook most nights. Between commuting, working, and just existing, they're ordering DoorDash 3 times a week. That's about $65 per order with fees and tip, $195 a week, $10,140 annually. They tell themselves they'll meal prep on Sundays. They never do. Someone has to clean the house because neither of them has energy after work. Bi-weekly cleaning service, $4,200 annually. Pre-made salads from Whole Foods because they're trying to be healthy but don't have time to chop vegetables. A premium of about $2,000 annually over cooking from scratch. Added up, DoorDash, $10,140. Cleaning service, $4,200. Convenience food premium, $2,000. That's $16,340 in exhaustion spending. Sarah's $68,000 salary after taxes, $17,182, childcare, $28,800, commuting, $6,440, and exhaustion spending, $16,340, nets negative $802. She's working full-time, missing her hypothetical kid's childhood, and the household is paying $800 a year for the privilege.
Even if we cut the exhaustion spending in half, which is unrealistic for 2 full-time working parents with 2 young kids in 2025, Sarah's $68,000 salary nets roughly $7,800 annually. That's about $650 a month. That's $3.75 per hour for a college-educated professional with 8 years of experience. She'd make more working part-time at Costco. This is the two-income trap in its purest, most undeniable form. You're not building wealth. You're not getting ahead. You're running on a treadmill that's actively on fire, and someone's charging you for the privilege. The way out, that feels completely insane. Mike's parents keep saying they're overthinking it. Just buy the house, have the kids. It'll work out. It worked out for them, right? Except Mike's dad bought a house on one income while his mom stayed home with 3 kids. That world doesn't exist anymore. Or does it? Here's the counterintuitive truth that a growing number of people are figuring out. The way out requires doing something that feels insane, deliberately leaving money on the table. While everyone else is bidding both incomes to win the housing wars and the school district arms race, you refuse to play. Let me introduce you to the Chens. David makes $82,000 as an accountant. Jennifer makes $61,000 as a project manager. Combined income, $143,000. Basically identical to Sarah and Mike. But the Chens made a different choice. They bought a $280,000 house in a solid but not prestigious school district. It's 25 minutes further from downtown. The schools are rated 7 out of 10 instead of 9 out of 10. Their mortgage payment is $1,850 instead of $3,180. They drive 2012 Hondas that they bought in cash, no car payments. Total monthly fixed costs, structured around David's $82,000 income, is $4,100. Jennifer's entire $61,000 salary after taxes is about $45,000 take-home. It goes straight to savings and investments. They maxed out both Roth IRAs, that's $14,000. They're putting $15,000 into 401ks. The remaining $16,000 builds their emergency fund and goes into a taxable brokerage account. They've been doing this for 6 years. They now have $340,000 in investments and a fully paid-off house. If Jennifer loses her job tomorrow, they're fine. The home payment, food, utilities, everything essential is covered by David's income. If David loses his job, Jennifer's income covers everything while he finds something new.
They have options. Sarah and Mike have obligations. This is where it gets really interesting. At a 50% savings rate, which is what a dual-income household living on one paycheck effectively achieves, the standard retirement timeline compresses dramatically. A family spending $50,000 annually needs $1.25 million to reach financial independence. Saving $45,000 to $50,000 per year with normal market returns gets you there in 12 to 15 years. Not 40 years, not 30 years, 15 years. The practical strategies are straightforward. 1. Automate the savings so the second income never hits your checking account. Direct deposit straight to investment accounts. If you don't see it, you won't spend it. 2. Use the 50-30-20 rule for raises. 50% to savings, 30% to lifestyle, 20% to taxes. This prevents lifestyle inflation from resetting your baseline every time you get a bump. 3. Geographic arbitrage matters. Remote work means you can earn San Francisco wages while living in Pittsburgh, where the price-to-income ratio is 3.2 instead of 12.2. But the core principle is simple. Never let your fixed costs require both paychecks. The moment you do, you've entered the trap, and getting out is exponentially harder than never getting in. The trap doesn't announce itself. Here's the thing. The two-income trap doesn't send you a warning letter. You won't wake up one day and realize you've been caught. It happens slowly, one reasonable decision at a time. You'll tour that house and think, we can make this work. Everyone else is doing it. You'll sign up for the daycare and think, it's temporary, just until they're in school. You'll finance the second car and think, we both need reliable transportation. You'll order DoorDash on a Wednesday night and think, we've had a long week. We deserve this. And 10 years later, you're Sarah and Mike making $143,000, living paycheck to paycheck, wondering where it all went wrong. Except nothing went wrong. The system worked exactly as designed. You played by the rules, did everything you were supposed to do, and the rules absorbed both your incomes before you could build anything that looked like wealth or security or options. The numbers are unambiguous. A home price-to-income ratio that jumped from 2.6 to 7.0. Childcare that exceeds college tuition in 38 states. Healthcare premiums that quadrupled since 1999. A second income that can net as little as $3.75 per hour after all costs. This isn't a personal finance problem. It's a structural condition created by 3 decades of essential costs rising faster than any single paycheck can cover, compounded by a competitive dynamic where dual incomes became the minimum bid for middle-class life. The families feeling broke on $130,000 or $150,000 aren't bad with money. They're operating inside a system that absorbed their second income before they ever saw it. Your next move? The escape route isn't mysterious. Never let your fixed costs require both paychecks. Drive the older car, live in the smaller house, skip the prestigious school district, and bank the difference. Every dollar you don't lock into fixed costs is a dollar that buys you options, flexibility, resilience. The two-income trap won't announce itself. You'll sign the mortgage, enroll the kids, finance the cars, and one day you'll be sitting at your kitchen table wondering why you feel broke despite doing everything right. The only way out is seeing the trap before you're in it. And now you've seen it. If this video helped you understand why you feel broke despite making good money, hit that like button and subscribe for more financial reality checks. Drop a comment below telling me if you're Sarah and Mike or if you're the Chens. I want to know where you are in this story. And remember, the system is designed to absorb both incomes. Your job is to refuse to let it. I'll see you in the next one.